Okay, here we are. We are live on another episode of PulumiVision. And if I know anything about streaming, and I don't, we don't want to have any real big content right in the first few seconds because nobody's here yet. But that's cool. Hey, David, welcome to PulumiVision.
Yeah, awesome. I've not been on PulumiVision before. I'm really excited.
Yeah. It's fun that we
In fact,
got
I
the
don't think we've streamed together before, except for like a DevOps party games once, right?
Demo Party Games and CNC Face Off.
Yeah.
So we haven't done like an actual, like technology stream, just silly games and stuff. But yeah, we're gonna we'll just sort of shoot the shit for shoot the I don't know. I don't even know what our rating is on this. It's a work stream, but on the same token, Kat Cosgrove is on our team, so right.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I think we're gonna play around. We're kind of do a little GitOpsing, a little Kubernetes operating. That's not the right way to use that term, but I don't care. And dig into some stuff. Hey, welcome. We got some folks. And David, what programming language are you going to be using today?
I haven't entirely decided, to be honest. I'll probably use TypeScript. Although if the audience are feeling like they want to see something else, then we can be bold and go for that. Sure, why not?
We have one whole viewer so far, but it's still early. but if it's who I think it is, I think they're going to want to see Go. But let us know, what your thoughts are. But yeah, well, before we kind of dig into that, David, why don't you kind of tell me a little bit about what you got in mind, and let me know when you want me to give you your screen share.
Yeah, sure. So I thought what would be fun for us today would be to take a look at a complete end-to-end demo of using Pulumi to deploy our platform, which in this case will be Kubernetes on a cloud provider. And then to look at how we loop in and integrate our application teams, giving them a framework to be able to deploy their applications to the platform. And we're going to do this with some more Pulumi. So we'll be taking a look at the Pulumi operator, what it brings to the table, how we deploy stacks with it, and maybe have a little bit of a chat about how it works, what it's doing, because it's a pretty cool project that I don't think has a lot of screen time yet. So I'm looking forward to kind of like sharing it and being like, hey, check out this really cool thing, and here's what you can do with it. So it should be kind of fun.
Awesome. And I'm looking forward to, so I'll be watching the chat, trying to answer questions, feeding them to David. David's driving and running all the tech. So I definitely drew the better straw on this one, but I'm super excited to see, because this is maybe a bit of a spoiler, but I know David has a blog post that's coming out hopefully pretty soon about this. And I was reading it and helping review it, and I'm really excited to see it in action. So
yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I guess we could talk about that a little bit without giving too much away.
Well, I just didn't know if it was a spoiler to tell people that there was a blog post.
No, it's all good. We're all friends here, right?
Yeah.
So, it references a talk I gave at GitOps Days in December last year, where I was talking about the law demeter and how it applies to GitOps, which I know right away people are like, what? But is it law demeter or law demeter? I'm not sure. I'm going to swap and change it.
You just write it. That's the problem with talks, is you have to pronounce the words.
Yeah, a very tech problem, right? Is how do we pronounce all these things? So essentially that law tries to encourage us that we don't reveal or have too many leaky abstractions down our stack. And with GitOps, that's a bit of a challenge. And in fact, what we've seen today is a lot of people actually hard code environment information into the GitOps pipeline. So like the stacks that they have are prod, staging, QA, etc. But they're all hard coded in YAML somewhere. And I feel like we need to get away from this, because we're limiting the velocity at which we can deploy, but also the flexibility to spin up ephemeral environments, iterate, test, do some cool experimental stuff. And some of the challenges with that, we'll see it, I guess, as we go through. But the Pulumi operator actually helps solve a lot of these challenges, which is why I was so excited when I came across it. And I was like, I need to start playing with this a little bit more.
Awesome.
Yeah, I won't go into the blog post in more detail.
That's why you got to
already-
go to the blog and check it out. You should go check it every single day so you can see if that post is there. And you might even see a couple posts that I wrote. One is getting published shortly as soon as the workflow is done. So, and I also even hope that I understood David's feedback properly and updated it. I guess we'll find out.
All right.
All right.
We'll do an article review at the end of this session.
There we go. All right. Should we do some teching?
Yeah, we should get this cluster spun up first.
Okay, it's a good start.
Right now we have nada. I'm starting from complete scratch, so I'm gonna. How's that fun for you, Matty? Is that all right?
What's that?
How's the fun?
Can you go just maybe a little tiny bit bigger?
No.
Nope. You can't go bigger. Then it's fine.
There we go. No,
okay. I think that's good. I think it'll work.
All right, so I'm gonna run Pulumi. We'll get the initial list of favorite templates. We'll hit show additional. And for today's session, we are going to use Civo Cloud. Just because spinning up a Kubernetes cluster on Civo is faster than any other cloud provider that I've seen. We haven't had a comment telling me to use any other programming language, so I am going to go with TypeScript.
Okay.
Right. I was waiting to see if you were going to challenge me to go another language, but now we're
no, it's okay. We'll go for the type. We did. I been asked to do the Go content. We did Go last week, so it's all right. It's all right.
All right. A wiser man would have had their token prepared, but give me a second.
Actually, the funny thing is, now that I think about it, for as much as people always say we're always using TypeScript examples in Pulumi and PulumiVision, I think we've had barely any TypeScript because we did when Laura and I were doing stuff. I thought we did it with Python, and then I had Layla on, and we did .NET. Brendan might have done TypeScript. Yeah, Brendan, our GitLab one, and then we did Go when we had Datadog last week. So we're mixing it up. All right, cool.
Oh, really? Then TypeScript was the only choice I had.
It really was. We did the right thing here.
All right, so now we have a new Pulumi project, and this is us in VS Code. We have our stack file with our nice encrypted token. I love that about Pulumi, the fact that we could do that. And we have our default template for Civo Cloud, which, go figure, actually spins up a Kubernetes cluster. How cool is that? I don't even have to write any code.
How easy is that? Very easy. That's the answer.
Yeah. But I guess, these APIs are nice and simple. Here we're just saying that we want a new Civo Kubernetes cluster. We give it a name. I'm going to go for 3 nodes. And we have a size of the cluster, G3 Kubernetes mediums in London. And we're going to export a cluster name.
I mean, the reality is, right, like how much is there to say about the cluster that you need? I mean, you could say more things, but for our, because I know I like spin them up on DigitalOcean, like when I'm doing workshops. And yeah, my code for that is pretty straightforward. It's like basically how many nodes and how do I tag it so that it doesn't get deleted by our cleanup stuff.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's spin that up. It shouldn't take too long. It takes around 90 seconds, and then we will have.
Wow. Okay.
And we will
Maybe
have
I should be using Civo for instead of DigitalOcean for my my workshop clusters, because DO is always fast for me. But yeah,
90 seconds is pretty impressive. And I see we have Carlos in the chat. Hey, Carlos, welcome.
Hey.
All right, so I guess we can either sit and watch the creating status of this, or maybe we can talk about what our next step is.
Okay, so we're going to do a cluster. So what are we doing with this operator?
So what we're going to do is first deploy the CRDs for the operator, and then deploy the operator itself. What the operator does is it's going to run inside of our cluster and monitor for some custom resources. These custom resources are Pulumi stacks. So we can describe stacks that we want the Pulumi operator to manage. What those stacks are typically Git repositories that can be cloned into the cluster, and there is a continuous Pulumi op ran against them in a pretty cool fashion that is safe from the controller being, rescheduled, killed, anything like that. So it does lots of cool checkpointing to make sure that it's Kubernetes native as it has to be to work well in that environment. And we're going to pretend that our platform team is, this essentially. Obviously there would be a little bit more to that, but right now we're just saying we want a cluster. We could start deploying, backup tooling and, autoscalers, like cluster autoscalers, etc. But the application developers are going to take over with their own stacks and Git. So we have this very strict boundary between this is what the platform team are building and providing a set of working components for our application teams to consume.
So we had a question in the chat. I'm just going to bring it in case people are where I want to hear it. So Aston said, like, what's the most popular language used with Pulumi? Is it TypeScript? And I don't have the numbers in front of me, and I'll maybe poke around and see if I can find them by the end of the stream. But as I recall, it's actually not TypeScript. But I think it's Python is one of the most popular ones. One of the things, though, is TypeScript is there's things again, TypeScript over JavaScript is a little nicer for some infra coding, though, because of the type. There's features of TypeScript that just make it cleaner and easier to work with, which is why you see a lot of us writing examples in it because it's just a little more fun. But I don't think that is what have you seen out in the community, David? I don't know if you have any thoughts on this or not. I'm going to see if I can find the numbers though.
Yeah, so I mean, it's weird for me. Like I'd say I spend most of my time we're not talking about Pulumi here. Like general, as me as an engineer, I spend most of my time writing Go and Rust, and I love those languages for what I'm doing. But you're right. Whenever I have to come to Pulumi and infrastructure, there's something very interesting about the experience, the DX of working with TypeScript in this kind of fashion, from the tooling and VS Code to the autocomplete, the complete ease of use, having functions consumed from other libraries. It's a very great developer experience. I don't think we get with some of the other SDKs.
I think the things that were I was just looking at some comments I've seen internally, and they said a lot of customers definitely have been using Python as a lot of the enterprise customers. That's what we see. Is there a test framework for Pulumi? Same for linting. So yes, that's kind of I'll put a link in the chat to go into testing. Testing is a whole other thing. But one of the things is because Pulumi uses general purpose programming languages, right? You kind of have all those test frameworks for you. But I will let David continue, and I'll drop some links in the chat there.
All right. Okay, so we do have a Kubernetes cluster. I mean, I'm sorry, it was longer than 90 seconds. However, it was only 2 minutes and 7 seconds. But I still think that's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. And hey, Rich, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Rich.
So, if we pop over to here, I mean, I'm going to do everything just with, the GitHub and the documentation that's here. So you can all see how to do it yourselves. But we have the ability here to deploy the operator. And we could use kube control, but that would involve leaking the kubeconfig from our Pulumi program, exporting it, which is fine for some cases, but not for what I'm showing today. So we're actually going to try and just use Pulumi to be able to do this ourselves. So there's examples for all of the different languages. If we pop open Python, just because I know Carlos is saying that was interesting, this is what some Python looks like in Pulumi, which is not too bad, actually. But we're using TypeScript. I'm going to open the deploy operator TypeScript example. This first line of code is going to deploy the custom resource definitions. So let's paste that in, hit save. I don't have Kubernetes yet. Okay, so here's one of the reasons I always go to TypeScript as well. Mm-hmm. I open package.json, pop into here, and I do Pulumi cube, and I just let the autocomplete go to npm, look up all the packages and the versions, and I hit go. Is that not nice?
No pun intended.
I didn't even notice the pun until you made the pun joke. So yeah, there we go. And now we have Kubernetes support in our Pulumi project. We can pop over here and we can just quickly, I'm just going to override this one. I don't think we need the Pulumi SDK just yet. We'll call this case. So now what we're saying is, and we want to deploy a Kubernetes YAML or a config file or a manifest, depending on what lexicon you're using. And we can actually just point it straight to the GitHub raw URL. Now, right now, this is actually going to fail. Do we know why?
Who knows why?
Well, let's see.
I don't know, but I got to kick somebody out of the chat because they're trying to. How do I do this? Banned. That's what you get for trying to tell me to buy followers. Yeah, exactly. Rich says, yes, I want to be famous. I'm in Deverell. So, okay, let's see. Why is this going to fail? All right.
Because it couldn't reach our Kubernetes cluster. And the reason it couldn't reach a Kubernetes cluster is because we actually need a dynamic provider for this. Because I don't have one configured. So what we need to do is create a Kubernetes provider, which is a new case provider. And we'll call this Civo or platform, whatever I want. From here, we can pass in that we have a kubeconfig, and we pull this from our cluster. So the cluster that we create using the Civo SDK has an output, which is the kubeconfig for speaking and communicating with that cluster. We then create a new Kubernetes provider, which allows us to then apply any Kubernetes resources to the provider by adding this. And here's a cool TypeScript thing. Actually, if I rename this to provider, we get the shorthand syntax where I don't actually need to do that, which I also like.
Mm-hmm.
And we can do a Pulumi up. And this time it will deploy to our cluster.
All right. So, question: can this be done with Amazon EKS? Yes. Right. Everything we're doing with Civo Cloud, you could do with EKS. In fact, if I recall correctly, that was your first plan, and we just ran out of time. Like literal
EKS
time of spinning up.
EKS clusters take a bit longer to provision, and we want a stream not to be sat watching an EKS cluster spin up. So we went with a slightly faster option. And in fact, with the EKS provider, you don't need to do this. It actually exposes a provider as an output. So you could just do provider cluster.provider, but the Civo one doesn't support that. So a little bit easier. And of course, it works with GCP and any other Kubernetes provider. We're not doing anything that is too far off the beaten track here.
Yep. I'll drop a link in the chat for the EKS stuff.
All right. So, we actually probably do want to export this kubeconfig because it might be useful for me to be able to run kube control commands, right? So,
yeah, why not?
We will export our kubeconfig. So now we're adding an output. And for people that are very fast or can pause the screen, they'll probably be able to communicate with my cluster. But that's all right. All right, let's see if I can remember how to do this. So if we do stack output kubeconfig, I think that works, right?
Well, sure as hell one way to find out.
And then we can do export kubeconfig, current directory kubeconfig, and then we can run get nodes, right? Oh, close. Okay, so that didn't output what I thought it did. Whoopsie. Let's try that again. I believe there is a show secrets flag.
For sure, secret, yeah.
Because I appended. So
okay.
Dun, dun, dun. Cool. Okay. So took me a little bit longer than I expected, but that's all right. It's late.
Problem is,
So-
if I was thinking about it, I've run that command 100 times because that's what I always do when I do a workshop and I need to get it to then put it into the Gitpod thing. So I have that. Yeah, I wasn't watching. I was messing around in the chat.
Yeah. Well, we can run our commands, right? So we have terminal command line access to the cluster. We have Pulumi access to the cluster with our custom provider. So now we need to go back to our documentation. And we've got some boarding stuff that I'll just copy verbatim. It configures the roles and deploys the operator. So
Yeah. What time is it for you, David? Carlos would like to know.
it is 8:20 p.m.
8:20 p.m. So this is. I felt slightly guilty about this, but David is just too nice and doesn't tell me to like get bent when I ask him to do stuff. Yet.
Yeah, I've got 2 young kids. I work stupid random hours depending on what works best for me that day. So this is all good.
My most popular blog post I wrote many years ago is when my boys were just a few months old, so probably actually around the same age as your new one. And so you'd be up in the middle of the night, and I remember writing this blog post with one hand while I was holding my son Joey, and it was like it was just some off the cuff thing that absolutely blew up, and I was like, so that's sort of the trick. I do owe my kids some toys, but they don't want them anymore. They're too old. My 10-year-old is easy to buy for. My 12-year or almost 12-year-olds, I'll be 12 next week. They just want money. So they're looking at all the presents and they're like, well, why does Sophia have like 12 presents under the tree and I have like 3? And I'm like, because you guys don't want anything. Anyway, what do we got? Do they have some pods? Maybe they want some pods for Christmas.
Nobody's ever turned down a pod.
Yes.
All right. Well, we have a service account created. We have a role and role binding. We're just waiting on our deployment. Here's a cool trick. So what's actually happening with this deployment is that Pulumi is aware of a deployment. It knows that it spawns off replica sets, and in turn, those replica sets spawn off pods. And it's actually going to wait until all the pods that the deployment has created are actually ready and healthy. So if they have probes on them, they're trying to make sure that you don't deploy something that's broken and then Pulumi's like, hey, it worked. But if you don't want that behavior, you can actually turn it off through an annotation. So if we come to our deployment, we can do metadata, annotations, and we can say pulumi.com, skip await, true.
So, David, Rich just tweeted, he said, I always love watching Rawcode stream. He's so good at it. Matt Stratton is also on the stream.
Oh, thanks, Rich.
Accurate.
I've lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, right. No. Yeah, cheers, Rich. So this annotation will change that behavior so that Pulumi will just do the apply, and then it's entirely up to you and Kubernetes at that point to make sure the workloads that you deploy are in fact healthy. Of course, it has already deployed now, so it's not a big deal. But if we run Pulumi up, you'll see that it is a lot quicker this time.
Nobody's answered in the chat how they pronounce that word that I'm not going to say out loud because that will influence. So if you're in the chat, like, write it out phonetically. That command that David keeps running, not Pulumi up. Or let me know how you pronounce Pulumi up too.
All right, let's see what's next then. So we're on get pods. We have the operator running. It's actually not doing anything right now because the way controllers work in Kubernetes is they're monitoring for custom resources typically, and we haven't deployed any custom resources yet. So let's jump back over to the documentation. We have deployed the operator. We can move on to the next thing, which is we want to create Pulumi stack custom resources. Now you can do this through that command that I won't say anymore. Where's the example?
You mean kubectl?
Wow, are these examples in JSON? No. Someone was feeling funny that day. Or we can deploy using Pulumi, which of course we're going to do.
Of course. Why else would we?
So if we want to deploy a stack, there we go. And the things that are required are that we need to first put a secret into our cluster with our Pulumi access token. So I'm going to do that first. And then we're actually, how much time do we have, Maddie? Are we good?
I don't know. We got at least half an hour. We got as much time as you want. You're the one who's bedtime.
Right. I mean, we can start off by using API extensions custom resource to deploy any random resource in the Kubernetes world. However, we can do one better and actually use CRD to Pulumi to generate the types and actually get a fully typed experience as well. So we'll see how we're doing for time. I don't want to commit to too much just yet. But let's get the secret going first.
Just dropped a link about CRD to Pulumi in the chat too for people that want to know more about what's going on. Jeez, my hair is so flat today.
Your hair looks great today. All right, so we got a new Pulumi config. This allows us to pull things from our stack file, which is this one here. I'm going to say that we require a secret called Pulumi access token, which means I have to make that available. And in fact, if we run Pulumi up, we'll see that that gives us a nice error message saying that it doesn't exist yet. And I will go to the Pulumi console. There we go. Nice, helpful error message. You have required configuration, Pulumi access token, which isn't there. So I will create a new one. There we go. So now we can do a Pulumi config set. This is the secret Pulumi access token. And done. Okay, let's go back to the documentation. So we have to create a secret. This is actually using KX instead of the Kubernetes SDK. KX is the abstraction and helper library to make working with some Kubernetes resources a little bit easier. So we'll just make that available too. So we can come in here, we paste this. We have to import KX, which is the Kubernetes X package. And we can use our autocomplete here to get that pretty quick. Kubernetes. Done. And then npm install. And if we look at our code, yeah, it seems happier now. So now we have our access token here. So let's do Pulumi up and get that created. Rich says you have the best hair and infrastructure as code. I'd agree with that.
It's continually evolving into all the places where that happens. Cat would probably yell. You're lucky that Cat is not on the stream, Rich. That's all I'm saying. Because I think she'd have some words, but it's okay. See now, okay. I wanted to see something in your when next time you go back to your IDE to your VS Code.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so you just put your Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so you just flip it. You put your Explorer thingy doodle, whatever that window is on the right instead of the left.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I thought it was like some cool shit, and it was just like because our stream window was too small for me to see super duper well, and I was like, "What are you doing here? Is that like some TypeScripty thing?" I'm like, "Oh no, you're just going in the file. Got it."
Yeah,
but it was not where I was expecting it, so I was thinking it was something cool.
I just hate it. You don't have to look at it anymore.
No, it's okay. No, it's good. It's good.
All right, so let's deploy this the boring way, and then we'll squeeze in the nice way. So we're going to say this is our application team, stack 1, application team 1, app team 1. We're passing in our access token here, well, at least the name of the secret where we stored it in the cluster. we're going to have it a stack. So this can be, I think if we just omit that, it goes under my personal Pulumi. And we'll call this app team 1. And I have a raw code Pulumi examples repository, which we're not going to worry about the commit, but I do need the directory. What's it called? Oh yeah, this is why working with custom resourcing this way is rubbish, because I actually can't autocomplete the thing that I need. So you know what? We're not going to do it the crappy way.
So
we'll
are you using, just for my context, do you have CoPilot on, or is that the other auto?
Yeah.
Is that just TypeScript autocomplete?
No, that's CoPilot.
That's CoPilot. Okay.
We got a comment from Skylar that they alternate between Coop Cuddle
Coop Cuddle,
and
Cubectl.
Cubectl? I've not heard that one before.
Cubectl. I say Coop Cuddle, not cuddle like the cuddly way, which I know is what Rich likes, but cuddle like cuttlefish. But since my license plate is Coop Cuddle, I feel like I should be considered somewhat authoritative on that word.
All right.
David's like, I'm never streaming with you again.
No, I'm having fun. Just losing my train of thought because.
Yep.
It's all good. All right. It's all good. We're not in a rush. It doesn't matter. Okay, so we want to generate an SDK for these types, and I've not done this before, so we're going way off the beaten track here. But I'm going to look inside. In fact, we did it right here. So what do you need to generate an SDK from a spec and CRD to YAML? Well, all you need is this YAML file. So we can come here and I'll do curl fssl srd.yaml and drop in the URL. So this just downloads the custom resource definitions. And we can see them like so. So these are all the Pulumi operator specs, which are in open API format. We can then run crd to Pulumi. And if we take a look at the help here, we can generate SDKs for .NET, for Go, Node.js, and Python. So we're going to do the Node.js one. So we need Node.js. We need to give the package a name. So we'll call this Pulumi Stacks. I think that makes sense. And we need a Node.js path. So this is where they're going to live. And we'll store them in source Pulumi Stacks. And that directory probably should exist. Although I don't have my index.ts in stacks. Yeah, we'll fix that too. All right, so create a directory, run crd to Pulumi. Something went wrong. Was I too confident?
If it worked right the first time, you'd be concerned you did something wrong then. That's me, right? When I run a thing and I'm like, there's no problems, I'm like, okay, that couldn't have been what I was supposed to do then.
Oh, I didn't tell it the YAML file to compare.
Oh, right.
There we go.
You told it where, yeah.
All right, so it has successfully generated our SDK. Although now I'm in a position where I don't like that we have our index.ts up here and then a source directory with everything else. So I'm going to move our index.ts into source. And for that to still work, we just have to add main here. And
so that's a good tip in general from a Pulumi perspective that not everybody knows about, because if you sort of look at that, a lot of times when you're looking at examples with Pulumi, it's assuming that the root of the project of the folder is the whole Pulumi program, but you might want to have it maybe if it's have like an infra folder or something that's inside with something else, not necessarily in this setup. So this is a good tip that you can that's all you have to do is point it inside the Pulumi YAML.
Yep. Alrighty, so I didn't modify you. You go away. Okay. Oh no, it was actually being helpful because I moved that file. Okay. So now we want to import our new library. So we can say import star as stacks from, and now we have source. No, we have Pulumi stacks, like so. And then we'll see how this differs. So I'll comment this so that you can do a side by side. So app team1 equals new, and now I'm going to do stacks dot Pulumi dot stack v1. Come on, autocomplete. Oh, why is it not generated stack? I'm going to look really silly now, aren't I? I was too confident. Oh, v1 stack. Yeah. Pulumi. Why can I see it here? I'm just going to say screw you, autocomplete, and say I'm right. Is that okay?
That's fine. You're the boss of the computer, David. Or so it would seem.
No, it's not happy.
No, there's okay. So is it?
So if we do a Pulumi dot, we do get access to a whole bunch of resources.
But not under V1.
Yeah. That's peculiar.
Do you want to? So Skylar says, "Is this a nested stack? I've only seen stack references before."
Not a nested stack. So what we did was we have taken the CRD definitions and generated some Node.js code inside of this Pulumi stacks directory. So this is just like working with Pulumi Civo, Pulumi GCP, Pulumi AWS, only it's tailored for the custom resource definitions provided by the Pulumi operator. We can actually see that it looks like it's been generated okay. I'm going to close my IDE because sometimes I can get a little bit confused.
One might say you're turning it off and on again.
Yes, exactly. And we'll try.
I had the oh yeah, it was like we were doing a workshop a couple of weeks ago, and the same thing. I had run through the whole workshop that morning. Everything was fine, and then I ran into a very similar was Python, but yeah, where it just didn't want to load the stuff properly, and that's exactly how I fixed it. Was restarting my IDE. It just took way too long for me to get to that decision point. Oh,
yeah, it's not happy. I'm not sure why. I'm not going to fight it anymore, I don't think. But what we can see is that it has generated a Pulumi stacks Pulumi. It got all the versions, and we do have a stack.ts. So we can see that at least the type definition for this. We can go to the stack spec args, and we can see that the flag or the option I was looking for was called repo dir. Now, if I could create this object, we would be
what
happy.
does it not like about that exported Pulumi namespace? You see line 9? There's something in there it doesn't like. I'm just curious.
Oh yeah, I think we have a naming conflict.
Oh, because you're already right. Because is it because you imported Pulumi as Pulumi? So what's that red underline on line 9? It should tell you what it doesn't like, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
So when you're doing your Pulumi type ahead, it's coming from actual Pulumi, not your.
All right. I just
Because that's all regular Pulumi stuff, right? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
Oh, you're right. Okay. Yeah. Let's try calling this something else. I don't know why. Yeah, that's regular Pulumi. Okay.
Okay. So
But
when you were
maybe VS Code is just wrong.
no, you still
Let's so we need our access token secret. Thank you, CoPilot. We need our stack. Thank you, CoPilot. We need our project repo. Well, you tried CoPilot, but I guess you were never going to get that. Let's drop that in. We need our repo dir.
my dog is taking advantage of the fact that I'm on the stream and not paying attention to her and getting away with things in here. Come here. Come here, Max.
And the directory and my examples repository is called Kubernetes X Engine X. I wonder what the TypeScript compiler is going to say.
What do you think it's going to say, Moxie?
Yeah, V1 does not exist. You notice how it's going to Pulumi?
That's what I'm saying. So go back to when I'm trying to remember where. I think it's line 9 in here, in this file. When you was it this? No, it's not this one. It was in. I think it's where you define. Yeah. Try. No, it's not this one. Where was the other? Son of a gun. I remember there was a part where you were declaring Pulumi somewhere and it didn't like it. Like it was the IDE was complaining about it. So I think it was right there. Right there. See where you export the namespace? Line 9.
Okay, I understand that.
I don't know what I can't. You have to mouse over the word Pulumi because I can't see what it doesn't like. Oh, that just is.
Yeah, so here's the problem. There's a Pulumi namespace in the Pulumi stack CRD, and we're exporting it as Pulumi, which should be fine. However, we're importing Pulumi previously.
But do you need to import Pulumi in this file? I don't think you do. In this, you know what I mean? Like you're not using Pulumi anywhere, I don't think.
Yeah, there's Pulumi.
Oh, you are. Oh shit. Okay. Well then, okay, what you could do, don't call it Pulumi when you import it. When you do on line 4, instead of imported as Pulumi, now you're going to have to go and rename it as you so. But we had this whole concept, right? That's easy to do, right?
Okay.
You don't want to search because you'll screw up your import.
If I search for Pulumi dot, we should be all right. Oh, but
no. Well, you can't. You were right, but you have to. Yeah. Okay, so in theory,
but we'll probably have to do that.
No, because they're
yeah.
Because in the other places you imported. Oh, you did the same thing in this one too. You have two. It's the input and the output. You're right.
Yeah,
it's all the types need it. Yeah.
I wonder if that helps then. No. Okay, so it's unfortunate, but we do have the flag we need. So let's at least make our demo work before we go. But that's just an unfortunate side effect of the Pulumi namespace within the generated SDK versus the Pulumi namespace inside of the core SDK. So we need to work out a way to fix that. But you can see this would have been a much nicer API with autocomplete. This is your fallback one when you don't have the SDKs, so the Kubernetes objects that you want to deploy. And what we're going to do now is run a Pulumi up. This is going to deploy our stack, and then the Pulumi operator within the cluster will deploy Engine X for us. I don't have a cursor. Try again. There we go. Oh, my name is not DNS compatible. And that's because it's passed it on in the metadata here. Okay, got it. And Kubernetes needs DNS compat. So we'll just do that again. Cool. So now if we run get pods watch, we may or may not see what we want to see. But what we can run is a kube control gets export. Oh yeah. Where did I put this? Export kubeconfig, kube control get stacks. You can see that we now have a stack that was created for app team 1. We can describe our stack. Okay, so it's telling us that I missed something, and we need to specify the branch or commit. So let's fix that. And we'll do branch.
Oh, I remember that part when you said, I don't care about the commit.
But forgot to set the branch. Exactly. So that'll fix it. And then what we will see, I'm confident, is that our operator deploys application team 1's GitOps pipeline.
Huh. Did you save it?
I did save it because it's telling me that it couldn't find a reference. No, it's probably just typo.
My dog is so well behaved.
My code is not. Failed to initialize
try
the stack.
try Pulumi come, see if that works better. Doesn't work on Moxie. Moxie come doesn't work.
Failed to create a local workspace. Failed to create workspace. Unable to enlist and get repository.
Reference not found.
The branch is called main. The repository. I'm going to copy and paste. I don't trust myself. Name. And I'll copy and paste the directory name in case. Oh, yeah, that was wrong. All right, last time, right? See, things work as long as you just,
do
do the right thing. Yeah.
You can watch.
Okay. That's an old message. So hopefully.
Wait, what?
Well, that was 13 seconds ago, so I'm going to wait for
okay. Oh, right.
it to resync.
Eventual consistency, Moxie.
I mean, I could delete it, but maybe I should be more patient. All right, let's go back to the stack args thing. There is a way to change how often it syncs. Refresh. Refresh can be set. No, we don't want to refresh.
Oh, jeez. Okay,
oh yeah, resync frequency. What's the default? One minute. We're probably almost there. Oh, it still failed. Ah!
Maybe try a commit.
Delete stack.
Yeah. Get out of here, stack.
Main repo. I feel like that's okay. Just in case, though, as me being particularly silly, we will deploy the example stack just in case. Where is it? Engine X. Where's the Pulumi one? Oh wait, that's the control page. All right, we're going to deploy Metral's stack as a backup stack. Doesn't like my stack.
That seems rude.
I know. I deployed it yesterday, so I'm positive. I'm positive it's me, not the stack. So let's just deploy this one. All right, created. Okay, get stacks. Where's my stack? There should be 2 stacks, right? Ah, I know why it's not working.
Was it the destroy on finalize?
I think it's because my stack name didn't have my username.
You need to like put the quote org. Yeah. I guess that makes sense because how else is going to find? Yeah.
But we did see that the other stack did deploy when I changed that to contain my username. So it worked. That counts as working. Can't take that away from me.
It is success.
Oh, no, I've just broken that one. Oh, because I deleted. Ugh. Making things so much difficult, so much harder for myself. I deleted that one manually, so we have to do a refresh up.
Oh, right, because yeah, now it doesn't. Now Pulumi doesn't know about it, or doesn't know that state.
Indeed. And refresh these can take a little bit of time, but I'm sure it'll be pretty quick. So, have you played with the Pulumi operator before?
I haven't, so this is cool. It was one of the things that was on my list because coming from Red Hat and OpenStack, like, or OpenShift rather, you know, operators are kind of a thing, and I was like, oh, actually, the first thing I thought of when I came was like, it'd be cool if there was an operator for Pulumi, Pulumi operator, and then of course there is. I just haven't had a reason to sit down and dig into it. So this has been pretty cool, and I want to play with it a little bit more. because it sort of dusts off that way I was thinking about Kubernetes a year ago in OpenShift world. Cool. Well, if I think people have kind of filtered out again. It's everyone's kind of going off, but this was cool. This was fun. If you are still hanging out, we do this every week, same time, although not next week. We're taking next week off. But we'll be back on. Is the operator recommended for production use? I think it's production quality. Yeah, it's not in alpha or test or anything.
No, 1.0 was released in September. It's been used by some pretty big organizations, so you're welcome to install it and start having Pulumi end to end for your GitOps pipelines. It works really well as long as you're not me making mistakes.
Right. Yes. So the operator is recommended for production use. David is not. Is what we're saying. That's why he's in DevRel. But yeah, we'll be back here on PulumiVision on January 6th, which is 2 weeks from today. Peter McKee from Docker, and I'm not sure what we're going to do, but it'll involve Docker because otherwise Peter will be disappointed. And yeah, you can find David on Twitter at Rockcode. Check out the Pulumi blog. We should have a blog post on a similar topic coming up in the next week or so. And then I guess we'll just see you all on the internets.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Yep.
Have a good day.